To another episode of The Tapestry. I am Dr. François Booker Drew, and this is a podcast designed to amplify and elevate the voices of incredible women that we can learn stories from their narratives, and as they share their identities, we can be empowered to learn from their journey to transform our own lives. And so, I say this every show and I mean it. I have another amazing guest who's here with us today, and it is a pleasure to have Yolandé, Dr. Falame Devo. And I'm so proud. Why I'm emphasizing doctor, she just finished.
Yes.
And I am so proud of her because y'all, it is a process doing this work.
Absolutely.
And so I just got a chance to watch her go through it. So I'm going to read a little bit about her, and then we're going to start this amazing conversation. She is a womanist scholar, arts-based educator with interdisciplinary interests at the intersections of race, class, gender, sexuality, ethnography, and pedagogy. She is passionate about the voices of Black women and how critical these voices are in creating new narratives and sustainable practices of healing, liberation, and well-being. As an activist, scholar, practitioner, Dr. Falame integrates mindfulness, art, poetry, storytelling, and photography in her courses and presentations. A certified holistic wellness coach, she considers herself a body liberation coach. We're going to talk about that. And she creates and curates spaces for Black women to express themselves authentically and to help make meaning of their lived experiences of their bodies. She has presented at the National Women's Studies Conference, National Council of Black Studies, bringing attention to the Photovoice methodology as an affirming and culturally relevant methodological approach that fosters a legacy of stories and experiences via pictures and words for marginalized communities. She earned her PhD from Antioch University. That's our school. And she got her MA from Antioch and her BA from Hampton University. And she is a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. And so I am so excited to have you here so we can talk about this, because I got a chance to be your mentor when you were doing your work to get ready to defend and present all this information. And so talk to the audience about your research, because I know this awesome stuff, but tell them, what were you focusing on?
Wow. Well, first of all, let me thank you so much for this opportunity to share, just have some real talk conversation. And but more importantly, your platform is so very important for such a time as this. And so I do thank you for this opportunity, and as well as seeding into me when I was in the thrust of working through this process, as we call the PhD. And so again, I am grateful for you. And so my research was, as I was listening to that, I said, oh, who is this person that you're talking about? Is that me? Because when you're in the midst of all of writing, of your passion and doing your work, you're just doing it, and when you have to sit down to craft what you do, it's like, wow, and so I am humbled and I am grateful for just being able to share this work, this research. And so my research really is rooted in my own experience that I had and the evolution of my years of body dissatisfaction. And as I was, when we go into this wonderful program that Antioch has put together, Shout out to Dr. Lorian Alexander
Oh, yay!
and to Dr. Al Geskin for this
Yes.
amazing program, this reflective program that we are called to reflect on who we are as scholars, as practitioners, and to think about our own experiences and how we shape that into our research, right? And so I knew first of all, I was a holistic practitioner working with women around their well-being, their wellness, and my passion for wellness and well-being, as well as my own practice of self-care and my own journey through body dissatisfaction. Um, I got to this place where, I wanted to know what were the lived experiences of African American women in their bodies, because many women that were coming to me for coaching and advice and suggestions around food and dieting, a lot of the conversations, were, I don't like my body. I don't like the way I look. I've had struggles with, people talking about my hair texture, all of that many of us who are Black and brown women have dealt with, dealing with our skin complexion, our hair texture, and the size, and not being accepted and not being found beautiful, right? And so I wanted to find out what were these lived experiences of Black women, because as I was doing research, Francois, I found that there were many scholars saying, "Oh, Black women, they don't have any problems with body image. They don't have any problems with their bodies.
Oh, that's
They're,
true.
and it's not true, because listen, I was a part of a run group, a national organization who has a run group, and women were just like, I'm running so that I can lose weight and so I can fit into that dress and so that I could, and so this quest to understanding the lived experiences was really about understanding our ideas about our bodies and body image. However, after this research, it was much more than that. Much more came out of the research about the lived experiences of Black women, because what I did was took an approach of looking at it at the intersection of our race, our sex, sexual orientation, and our gender. And so, boy, oh boy, it was an amazing study. And I'm grateful for the women who did the research, what I call them my co-researchers, with me in sharing such very challenging experiences that we've had with our bodies.
And so, talk a little bit about why is it that one, people don't think that we don't have issues like, around, I hear the term body dysmorphia, but what is it that keeps people believing that we don't have those kind of issues? And then, you don't do body positivity. You talk about body liberation. What's the difference?
Great question. I want to start there first. So when I started this whole journey to figuring out what I wanted to land on, where I wanted to land. I mean, I hear about this body positivity. I actually went to a body positive conference. I met several body positivity activists. And, for me, it was something in my spirit that was like, it's more than telling yourself, I love myself, particularly for Black women. It's more than just saying I feel good about myself and I love the shape and then moving forward. For me, as I did more research, understanding how important it is for people of color, particularly women of color, to understand the historical ramifications of how our bodies have been, the narrative around our bodies have been set up, and how you just can't just say, I love my body one day. You got to understand that this stuff is this narrative that has been shaped about our bodies is deeply rooted. So it's very important to liberate our minds from this notion of what beauty is and what is acceptable, and where does that come from? Where does this notion of having long, thin, blonde hair come from? You know, and why is it necessary to remove the notion of beauty that is attached to that narrative? So really liberating our thoughts, you have to understand the historical ramifications of that narrative, if that makes sense. I mean, I'm getting excited here.
No, but that's what I wanted you to touch on, because, you know, when you said people had this belief in the research that, oh, we have it together, that's what I wanted you to pull out, was there is this historical narrative that has been presented around body image, particularly for Black women. And, you know, when I think about, and I cannot think of the lady's name that they would show, who had the, God, I can't remember, who had the large buttocks.
Yes, and Sarah Bartman.
Yes, that's it, Sarah Bartman, and how she was paraded around. Yes. And talk a bit about that, because I don't think people understand the historical narrative that's been around Black women and their bodies.
Yeah, so Sarah Bartman was a African woman who was put on display because of her large buttocks and her large vaginal areas. And after she was deceased, her body was taken apart and used and was shown as in museums. And so this whole, it was demeaning, demoralizing image that was put out there. And that was also in addition to when African colonizers were going to Africa, and they were taking images of the women that were naked. They were, you know, of course, did not have any clothes on, and were taking very, you know, images of their body and saying that, you know, these are animals. I mean, so this whole notion of othering Black women, African women, and demoralizing and demeaning their bodies is very important to understand that, you know, where that notion of otherness comes from, and way
how it shows up now,
and exactly, that's where I was going, and how it shows up. Absolutely.
And talk about, you know, the relationship of food, because in our community, you know, we're getting ready for this holiday season, and folks, you know, with COVID especially, are isolated. And so sometimes we don't have a healthy relationship with food. And then when you add the body image piece on top of that, and the historical piece on top of that, and your lived experience, all that combined, how do you help people, one, begin to understand how to liberate their body and how to care for themselves, but how do you also help them deal with their relationship with food so that there isn't the guilt behind it? Because we know we're going to have it.
Right. And it's so funny you said that, because I'm actually going to be starting a series in January, kitchen talk conversations, kitchen table conversations, where we're going to be talking about a relationship with our food and understanding how the implications, and you hit it on the nail, because it's been compounding, because now there are people who are making light of the fact, I have the COVID-19, you know, in terms of gaining weight, you know, I've got COVID weight, you know, this perpetuation again of fatphobia. It's really fatphobia. And so speaking to your question, I meet people where they are, and I really individualize the conversation. But what I intend that folks to get is to understand how important it is to know the history, to understand power, understand the importance of power and domination, and how particularly that is important in the way in which we have a relationship with our food. And I mean, I can go this can be an extended
But
conversation.
talk about that. How does power impact our